Slow burn dread, silence, shadows, footsteps, dreams. We pushed deeper, the tunnel narrowing to a crawl space in places, forcing a single file, breaths sinking in the humid black. Our footsteps crunched soft on gravel, but every third step echoed wrong, a faint tap trailing ours, like nails on tin, always just behind the bend. "Echoes," Charles said, but his voice cracked, and he cranked his light brighter, sweeping arcs that birthed shapes, a slumped silhouette that dissolved into rubble, a handprint on the wall too elongated, fingers splayed like it had clawed for purchase. The air grew thicker, laced with that coppery bite, and sweat beaded cold on my neck despite the damp heat. We hit a chamber after an hour, wider, vaulted like a throat, littered with shattered lanterns and picks frozen mid-swing. James found a miner's journal, brittle pages fluttering in our breaths, frantic scrawls about the dragger in the deep, how it came at shift's end, mimicking voices to lure the weary. Heard my boys laugh, but Tommy's been dead 5 years. We pocketed it, joking about ghost stories for the vlog, but the words wormed in. That night, no, we didn't camp. We pressed on, but time blurred in the dark, minutes stretching to hours. Or was that later? The dream started on the drive home, feverish flashes, me alone in the shaft, the walls pulsing like veins, and from the black, a low rasp. Alex. Not wind, but hunger shaped like my name. I'd wait gasping in the passenger seat, Charles glancing over with eyes too wide, whispering, "You were moaning in your sleep," sounded like dragging. Back home, the dread didn't lift. It settled like silt. Nights in my room, the fan's hum mimicked that scrape, and shadows pooled wrong in corners, thickening at 3 a.m. I'd lie there, heart thudding, listening to the house creak, not settling, but pacing. Footsteps, soft and deliberate, circling the hall outside my door. I'd bolt up, fist the knob, but nothing. Just the mirror across the room, fogging from the inside. A faint outline pressing against the glass. 5 smears, too many joints. Sleep became a trap, dreams of the mine. But now the beams weren't etched. They bled my name in slow, viscous drips, and the air hummed with whispers, layered voices overlapping. Charles laughing, James cursing, my mom's voice from childhood, all dragging toward me through the dark. I'd wake soaked, sheets twisted like restraints, the taste of dust on my tongue, and always that cold draft from under the door, carrying the faintest echo, tap, tap, closer.
Escalation, paranoia, sleeplessness, trembling. Entity grows bolder. By week 2, paranoia was my shadow. I'd flinch at car horns, convinced they were clangs from below. Charles texted less, said he heard it too, that rasp in his vents at night, like something testing the ducts. James ghosted us, mumbling about bad vibes before blocking our group chat. Me, I couldn't eat. Food turned to ash, my hands trembling so bad I dropped forks, watching them skitter like fleeing insects. Sleepless nights bled into days, my eyes gritty, rimmed red, the world tilting at edges. I'd catch myself staring at cracks in the sidewalk, imagining them widening to shafts pulling at my shoes. It grew bolder then, the thing. Objects misplaced. My keys in the freezer, crusted with frost that smelled like mine damp. whispers and the shower steam. "Come back, Alex, we miss you." Not my voice, but a chorus, wet and overlapping like mouths full of gravel. One night, trembling under blankets that felt like sodden canvas, I heard it at the window, a slow drag across the glass, nails etching slow, deliberate lines. I froze, breath shallow, as the curtains billowed inward on no breeze, and in the gap, a shape, tall, hunched, limbs folding wrong, peered in, eyes like voids punched in coal, reflecting nothing. It lingered, head tilting as if listening to my pulse, then tap, tap, retreated into the night. I barricaded the window with my dresser, but dawn brought the proof. Those etchings, deep gouges spelling echo in jagged script. My phone buzzed then, a new DM from Mojave Echoes. "You left something behind. It wants to return." Attached, a photo, our Jeep's license plate, smeared with what looked like blood-flecked sand. Sent at 2:47 a.m. from my location. The wallet did it. We'd lost it in the panic. My beat-up leather bifold with my ID, a 20, and that miner's journal page folded inside. Charles swore he heard my shout for it as we fled, but in the chaos, it was gone. Days of denial, but the dreams twisted sharper. Me reaching for it in the dark, fingers brushing not leather but flesh, warm and yielding, pulsing under my touch. I had to go back. Alone this time, Charles begged off, voice shaking over the phone about not tempting it, and James was MIA. I drove out at dusk, the desert swallowing light like a throat, my hands white-knuckled on the wheel. The headframe loomed blacker than memory, the entrance a wound festering under stars that watched indifferent. I didn't rappel. I stumbled down the incline on hands and knees, beam jittering, every scrape amplified the thunder. The air hit like a slap, thicker, alive, coiling around my throat with that copper reek, now mingled with rot sweet decay, like meat left too long. Deeper in, the walls wept condensation, slick under my palms, and the whispers returned, not echoes but invitations. "Alex, join the drag." I found it in the chamber, the wallet, splayed open on a cart like an offering, contents pristine, but the leather gnawed. Ragged holes punched through, edges frayed as if molders had worried it. No animal does that to hide. And inside, the journal page. Not faded scrawls, but fresh ink looping in my handwriting. "It wears your face now. Look behind." I whipped around, beam lancing the dark. There, at the tunnel's throat, stood a figure. My height, my build, jeans torn at the knee just like mine from the fall. Face shadowed, but the tilt of the head, familiar. "James?" I croaked, but the reply was a gurgle, wet and bubbling as it stepped forward. No boots crunched gravel, it glided, feet leaving smears of viscous black. The beam caught its face then. Not James, not human. Skin like parched leather stretched taut over bones too sharp. Eyes sunken pits weeping tar. Mouth a rictus gash lined with needle teeth that clicked in rhythm. It wore my flannel, stolen from the wallet's photo, but shredded, clinging like shed skin. And its hands, God, the hands, elongated, joints multiplying into spider limbs, ending in hooks that dripped slow, ebony strands. It wasn't mimicking, it was me, a mockery stitched from mind-destined malice, birthed from the earth's grudge. The realization hit like a cave-in. This wasn't a ghost. It was the echo of the desert, the void given form, feeding on what we left, fear, names, flesh.
It didn't charge. It stalked. Slow, deliberate, that drag scrape marking its path as it herded me deeper, beam my only shield. Voices warped around us. Charles's laugh twisting to sobs. James cursing in reverse. My own pleas from the flight,
layered with gurgles like drowning men. The walls bled now, thin rivulets of black ichor tracing veins that pulsed in time with my heart. I ran blind down a fork, lungs burning, but discoveries waited like traps. A pile of bones, not animal, human phalanges, nod to nubs arranged in my initials. A rusted lantern flickering to life on its own, illuminating graffiti from '09. They come back wrong. Flashbacks hit mid-stride, our descent, but now I saw it. The pebble's thump wasn't bottom, it was teeth parting. The DMs replayed in my head. At Mojave echoes not a tipper, but it, luring fresh meat with pixels of promise. It closed in, breaths hot and ragged at my neck, hooks whispering through hair. I tripped into a side alcove, beam shattering on rock, plunging me to Stygian black. In that void the stalking peaked, distorted chorus chanting my sins, every lie to mom, every bully shove I'd ignored, amplified to accusations that clawed sanity. Hands, its hands, brushed my back, cold as grave soil, peeling at my shirt with wet rips. I swung wild, fist connecting with yielding rot that giggled, bubbling. Discovery then by feel, the wall, not stone but membrane, throbbing under my palms, birthing pods of shadow that hatched with pops, tiny drags skittering toward my boots. The entity loomed, voice a symphony of stolen screams. We are the echo, you are the sound. Terror peaked as hooks sank shallow into calf. Fire, the numbness, dragging me inch by inch toward the chamber's heart, where the air thrummed with 1,000 tap-taps, a hive of mockeries waiting to wear our skins. The chamber birthed it fully then, as I kicked free, scrambling back on elbows slick with my own blood. My spare flashlight tumbled from my pack, beam igniting the horror in stuttering pulses. It wasn't one, it was legion, a writhing mass of limbs and faces stitched from the mine's refuse. Miners' overalls fused to torsos of elongated shadow, eyes like quartz shards glinting wet, mouths unhinging to reveal throats lined with rusted nails that chimed like bells. The core was me, us, a central form wearing Charles's jacket over my flannel, James's watch dangling from a wrist that split into 5 branches, face a patchwork of our features, my jaw, Charles's eyes, James's nose, all melting and reforming in slow, agonizing flows of tar. Unnatural, yes, limbs folding at impossible angles, defying bone, sprouting barbs that wept luminous venom. Skin, not flesh, but desiccated earth cracking to release spores that hung like fireflies, illuminating the abomination in hellish glow. It spoke then, voice a landslide of gravel and grief. We were abandoned. Now we collect. Shocking, the way it knew. Every insecurity, every forgotten promise projecting them as illusions. Mom's disappointed sigh made manifest in vapor. My first heartbreak as a spectral girl reaching from the walls. Unforgettable the way it unraveled, threads of shadow peeling to reveal voids beneath, sucking light, birthing miniatures that skittered toward me with babyish mules. This was the desert's truth, not empty but full, a parasite of place, echoing the lost into eternity, twisting explorers into extensions of its endless hunger. I confronted it with a pickaxe scavenged from debris, swinging in arcs of desperation, the chamber a maelstrom of dust and shrieks. It lunged, hooks raking air inches from my throat, forcing me to dodge into walls that gave, sucking at clothes like quicksand. Psychological collapse came in waves, visions of my life as its, weddings with shadow brides, kids with needle smiles, eroding will until I sobbed, axe dropping, curling fetal as it loomed, maw unhinging to consume. But the truth ignited fury. This wasn't haunting, it was recruitment. Join, it gurgled, echo forever.
I snatched the journal page, its ink still wet, and thrust my lighter to it, flame leaping hungry. The parchment ignited, and the entity scrolled, a banshee wail that cracked beams, birthing cave-in rocks that pelted us both. Fire spread, licking its patchwork flesh, revealing the core, not monster, but mirror, the void we all carry, amplified by isolation, feeding on unspoken fears until it wears you inside out. Frantic, I bolted as it thrashed, flames birthing smoke that choked like fingers, hooks slashing wild but missing as collapse roared. Truth hit final. We'd awakened it with our lights, our names, modern echoes summoning the old. I clawed up the shaft, rocks tumbling, its wail pursuing like a lover's plea, emerging into starlit air that tasted of freedom, laced with ash. But as the entrance sealed in rubble, a final hook snagged my boot. Tap, then released, leaving a tooth embedded in leather. Not victory, survival, purchased with the knowledge that echoes don't die. They wait. Back in Reno, the hospital was sterile hell. Stitches for gashes that wept black for days, tetanus shot burning like accusation, doctors murmuring infection, while I stared at walls that watched. Charles vanished, phone dead, apartment empty, his Jeep found torched off Route 95, gnaw marks on the dash spelling vague warnings. James surfaced weeks later, hollow-eyed, interning at a psych ward, muttering about the drag in sessions. Me? The damage burrows deep. Mirrors avoided. Deserts a phobia that knots my gut. Nights fractured by drags in the vents. Emotional flaying. Trust shredded. Every friendship a potential lure. Mom's calls screen for hidden hungers. The wallet? I burned it. But the tooth remains. Hidden in a drawer. Warm to the touch some nights. Tapping faint Morse. Soon. The account at Mojave Echoes, post still, new coordinates, new victims' names. And in my dreams, the mine rebuilds, chamber aglow with faces, ours, first in line, waiting to drag the next fool home. In the quiet after the scream, remember, the desert doesn't whisper secrets, it echoes your own, until they grow teeth and come calling. The shaft seals, but the hunger seeps through cracks you can't see. If this chill lingers in your bones, share it below. What's your echo? Fade to black, but listen close. It's still there, always.
Your heart slams against your ribs like a trapped animal. The metallic tang of blood thick on your tongue from where you bit it running. Gravel bites into your palms as you claw up the jagged incline, flashlight beams slicing wild through choking dust. But it's the sound, that wet, dragging scrape behind you, like claws on rusted iron, inching closer with every ragged breath you gasp. Your friend's screams echo off the walls, but whose hand is that, cold and too long-fingered, brushing your ankle in the black? And why? Why does it know your name? If the shadows in your own room just shifted, hit that like button to summon the light. But subscribe first with notifications on, because the desert doesn't forget. It hungers. Stay with me, if you dare. My name is Alex, and back in senior year of high school, I thought I was invincible. Me, Charles, and James, we were the kings of urban exploration, the kind of kids who chased adrenaline like it was oxygen. Charles was the spark, all wild grins and reckless plans, the one who'd Instagram stalk forgotten ruins for that perfect shot. James was the steady one, packing extra batteries and bear spray like we were heading into Jurassic Park. And me? I was the tag-along with the good camera, the one who filmed it all for our channel that had, 500 followers? Pathetic now, but it felt like glory then. Nevada's Mojave Desert isn't a place, it's a wound in the earth, baked cracked under a sun that leaches color from everything until the sands just ash-gray regret. We'd heard the rumors, old silver mines from the 1800s, abandoned when the veins ran dry, left to rot like God forgot them.
But it was that Instagram tip that hooked us. Some ghost account, @Mojave Echoes, DMing coordinates to a shaft no one's touched in decades. The echoes here, they answer back, the message read. Creepy enough to thrill us. Charles pinned it on the map and we piled into his beat-up Jeep Wrangler at dawn, masks slung around our necks for the dust, backpacks heavy with ropes, headlamps, and enough Red Bull to outrun regret. The drive was eternity stretched thin, hours of washboard roads that rattled our teeth, the AC blasting hot air that smelled like scorched rubber. By noon, the horizon swallowed the last ribbon of highway, leaving us in a sea of creosote bushes clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. We killed the engine a quarter-mile out, hiking the rest to avoid echoes on our approach. That's when we saw it. A wooden head frame, half caved like a drunkard's grin, splintered timbers leaning into a maw of black that yawned wide enough to swallow a semi. Vines of rusted chain link choked the edges, and the air? God, the air hung heavy, like breathing through wet wool, laced with the sour reek of damp rod and something sharper, metallic, like old pennies spilled in the dark. We geared up at the lip, masks on, lights clipped to helmets, and Charles dropped the pebble in first. It clattered down, down, echoing like a death knell, fading into a wet thump that lasted too long, like the bottom was breathing. Shaft's about 80 feet, he whispered, voice muffled, eyes gleaming with that fire. Ready to make history, boys? We rappelled in tandem, boots scraping shale, the rope humming taut under our weight. The walls closed in, rough-hewn rock veined with quartz that caught our beams like fractured teeth. At the bottom, the tunnel stretched into a vein of oblivion. Forking left and right, rails buckled under decades of cave-ins, ore carts tipped like gunted beasts, spilling their load of petrified sludge. Dust motes danced lazy in our lights, and the silence, it wasn't empty. It pressed, thick as fog, making your ears ring with the lack of sound. That's when the first detail hit, subtle as a chill down your spine. James nudged me, his beam flicking to a support beam overhead. "You see that?" he muttered. Etched in the wood, not carved, but burned, like acid had wept letters. A-L-E-X. My name. Faded, sure, but deliberate. Coincidence, I told myself, some miner's tag from a century ago, names blending over time. But the air turned colder there, a draft snaking up from the dark fork ahead, carrying a whisper of movement, like fabric brushing stone. We laughed it off, Charles snapping pics, but my skin prickled, and I swear the shadows at the edge of my light leaned in, just a fraction, watching.